Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. The Black Friday event is on the horizon. This has always been one of my favorite updates. As far as value for your money, I think Black Friday, if you're looking for ships, is typically going to be among the best. Christmas, the half off a year of premium is also very good, alongside dockyard ships in general. If you're willing to grind, that's also pretty good value for your money. But Black Friday is coming up, and Rhode Island has actually got a B variant coming soon. I didn't get to play with that one, but it's just a camo difference. It's really just the exact same ship we're going to see here. It's very strong. It's a really, really good battleship at tier 10. Now, how much is it going to cost, though? I don't have the exact figures. I've got some ideas, some guesses, some guidance a little bit from some of the community managers, but I don't have anything concrete at the moment. I've been told they're going to retain the 15% off tier 9 and 10 ships. That's what we typically see for the B variants at tier 9 and 10. And for the tier 8 and below B variants, they're usually 30% off the doubloon price of whatever the normal variant is. So very good at tier 8 and below. It's decent at tier 9 and tier 10. Now, Rhode Island was introduced a while ago in a very short time limited event, and it was like $250, something like that. Extremely expensive. And they've classified this one as a rare ship. What does that mean? Well, this content rarity ship rotation thing, they've tried to standardize some of the prices. And for a tier 10 rare ship, if it was in the armory for doubloons, that would be 31,000 doubloons. Rhode Island not typically available. So here we're going to see maybe a 15% discount off 31,000 doubloons. So that'll get you around 26,000 doubloons, 26,350 doubloons. Still a lot of doubloons to spend, but much, much better than the original Rhode Island introduction. If you're interested in this ship, it should be available in a content bundle with all the other new ships, which we'll take a look at soon, don't you worry. But Puerto Rico, Rhode Island, Neustrashimi, Karl Johan, as well as Schill, I believe, are all the new ones. You could get it there, but more importantly, it should be available to you guys in a normal direct purchase for doubloons in the armory. While 26,000 doubloons is certainly a lot to spend on this game, we have been getting a lot of doubloons for free recently by playing. And if you haven't been playing and you just jump back in the first 24 days, they're going to give you over 10,000 doubloons up front, as well as a total of 22,000 more doubloons if you were playing every single day from that start of the Grand Voyage event. That was a couple patches ago, so if you're just starting now, you won't get that full 32,000 doubloons for free, but I think it's possible that a lot of you have at least some of those free doubloons, which is really cool to see some of these new Black Friday ships being available for doubloons. Sometimes they only release these B variants for regular cash. And that is still going to be the case for the Alaska, Massachusetts B, Jean Bart B, and Ajaccio B. Essentially, these ships that they have removed because they were too popular or too powerful back in the day. It's been a while since they've actually done that. But those ships, if you're interested in them, much like last year, are only available for direct purchase. And that is with real money. You can't use doubloons on those four. But for Rhode Island, you should be able to get it for doubloons, which is really cool, considering the amount of doubloons we've been getting for free over the last few updates. And whether it's worth it or not is up to you, but as far as battleships at tier 10 go, Rhode Island is very powerful. This is a good battleship. In the past, I may have said I'm not enjoying it, certainly. It's not for me, okay? It's not my kind of play style. You got to play a lot more passive than I necessarily like to. You got to shoot more HE than I would necessarily like to. However, this thing is extremely powerful. You get a 9-kilometer radar on a Georgia hull with battle cruiser dispersion on only 356s, but the reload is incredibly quick. The AP has slightly improved pen angles. The HE does a lot of damage and has great fire chance. And you have this Georgia hull, which means you're fast with a crazy engine boost. Your heal has a 40-second cooldown, so we're retaining that from Georgia. This thing is extremely strong. The concealment is great. The secondaries have improved accuracy. Not that you should build for secondaries, Because the big problem with this ship is its armor. Trying to stay alive at close range is very difficult. The bow and stern are only 27 millimeters of armor. Now, Tennessee shouldn't be able to overmatch us. I think he just got the cheek citadel. Very fortunate for him. But as soon as he hits a center mass, suddenly it is not citadels anymore. So our armor holds up a lot better. The center section is still like Georgia armor, 38 on the deck and upper belt. But we have one of the biggest superstructures in the game. I talk about this with German battleships, GK, but honestly, Georgia might have a bigger superstructure than GK even. If not, it's very, very close. So Rhode Island having that superstructure certainly is a weak point. We can do a lot of dodging though, thanks to this engine boost. It is very powerful. The ship's already quick, but having a 15% engine boost is amazing. And it's got a strong action time, a lot of uptime, 180 seconds base with only a 90-second cooldown. It is extremely useful, allowing you to flank very easily, and you're going to need to do that if you want to use AP. You can shoot HE into bow on targets, and it'll actually perform very well. But you know me, I like AP a lot more. I prefer the dev strikes, all of that with armor piercing, and this ship can do that. You get yourself on a flank, it's going to be extremely powerful. And thanks to the 22-second reload on these guns, people aren't going to be able to turn away in front of you like they might on some other battleships. You bait out a salvo, and then you can turn because you know the battleship's on reload. Not so here with Rhode Island. It also means if you catch someone's broadside and they're forced to angle to someone else, you can pump out a lot of DPM on them. And while the AP is not amazing into battleships at range, it's very, very good into cruisers. Battlecruiser dispersion is awesome. Alongside the American accuracy upgrade means this ship is quite consistent at punishing broadside cruisers. Now we're going to buff that reload further with Halsey. You're not going to get that every game. However, like a 16 second reload on Rhode Island guns turns out it's pretty good too. Halsey is very nice to have as an option here. Another citadel on that Castilla. It is very, very useful. However, did you notice that Colombo salvo? Not particularly unique to Rhode Island that we're suffering to Colombo sap, but it is something you have to worry about here with this ship. We don't have a lot of base HP either. The heal does make up for that, certainly, having the 40-second heal cooldown, but it's not a particularly tanky ship, and so we need to play it rather carefully. You don't want to be the primary focused target of the enemy team. You're looking to play more of a battle cruiser role. Yeah, it's a battleship, but honestly, it plays much better if you go in as a battle cruiser, trying to isolate fights, trying not to just play open water, bow in, maybe kited you can, but even then you're still going to take some damage thanks to the lackluster armor, I would say. And considering the AP doesn't perform like battleship AP, at least into other battleships, we're going to need to use a lot more of the high explosive. If you're a battle cruiser player, I think you'll really, really enjoy Rhode Island. You get the utility of a radar. You're actually, I would say, a lot tankier than something like Alaska or Puerto Rico. So you're much more capable to stand up to focused fire, even though it's not battleship level. If we consider it from the perspective of a battle cruiser, I would say this is easily one of the best battle cruisers in the entire game. I'm a little biased against battle cruisers though, as you know. I'm not a huge fan of them in general. And so this ship is much, much stronger in my opinion. But it takes up a battleship slot. We've talked about that a little bit when it comes to the new German cruiser line, where that is all about the manual secondaries and getting into brawls like that. Similar to Schlieffen as far as secondary power and honestly survivability too. Yet I found myself performing better or more comfortably in the new German battlecruiser line. And I think that came down to it's not taking up a battleship slot. You're still having a battleship on your flank when you're playing that ship. And of course, the playstyles are a lot different with Rhode Island and battle cruisers as compared to the German cruiser line alongside Schlieffen. But you want to go brawl with a Schlieffen and a new German battle cruiser, where Rhode Island, it's got so much utility, and you're not taking up a cruiser slot for that utility either. So you get an immense amount of pressure on caps and on destroyers on your flank when you're bringing a Rhode Island, because you're not taking up a cruiser slot, yet you're still bringing a radar, and a fairly tanky radar at that. So it's really, really strong at getting good cap control early. The speed helps a lot too, but the utility here is very interesting. To be a battleship with a radar is quite unique. And while we don't have the hull to stand up to immense focus fire, and that can be a weak point on your flank if you're taking up that battleship slot. It's not going to outdo the extra performance you're going to gain from these guns, this speed, and more importantly, the utility you're bringing. It's very difficult to deal with a flank when there's a Rhode Island that's going to be pushed up into an aggressive enough position to use its radar effectively, but one that knows how to stay alive. And maybe that's the most difficult part of playing Rhode Island, is getting effective value out of your utility without dying. It is a little bit tricky, but when played right, there's not a lot of ships that have this kind of battle impact in the battleship lines. It is very rare for a battleship to get this kind of utility, firepower, and speed. It just doesn't have the tankiness. And if you're someone who doesn't push in as much, maybe you're not like me, you tend to play a little further back, this one you'll feel right at home with. It takes a lot of effort for me to not just full send in and push with these things, because that's where I have the most fun. That's what I want to make plays happen like that. And you can make those plays happen. You just have to calculate very carefully if you're going to easily win that engagement. There's a Kremlin out here who we've already done a decent amount of damage to with HEs, taken some torps, and we have a Wisconsin backing us up as well. So I'm calculating that we can make this work. The Cassard is running, the Worcester is running, so we should be able to make this work pretty easily. But you need to wait for these kind of opportunities where you're overwhelmingly going to win. Otherwise, if it's a close fight and it's at close range, that's where enemies can exploit your weaknesses much easier. Even here, this Kremlin is going to get some pretty decent damage into us, even though we're pretty well angled. Our superstructure takes massive full pens. If he aims for our bow, he's going to overmatch through it. It's not a tanky battleship at tier 10, certainly, but that's okay, as long as you know how to play around it. And the speed that allows you to flank very quickly, but also get back into the fight very quickly. Here we're going to take out this Kremlin. We're going to see the value of radar on this Cassard. It's extremely useful. Even some secondaries going to hit here. But we've won this flank at this point, and if I'm in a different battleship that is a lot slower, we're not going to be able to get across the map to go help our teammates, right? We're not going to push spawn, okay? Please don't push spawns. Generally, that is going to be a bad idea. Not always, but at 95, 99% of the time, it's not going to be so great. And having this engine boost, having a fast ship to get back into those engagements is really, really nice, and allows us to play in these games where maybe it's a little bit more blowouty, we still get some decent value out of our ship, and we're not just locked out of the game because the enemies on our flank folded completely. Or if our flank completely dies on our team, it's also true that we're pretty good at kiting. Rhode Island is very difficult to take down when it's kiting. It's maneuverable at longer ranges. It means it's harder to hit those weak points. And the heal coming back so quickly means it's probably going to get through all of its heals when it's kiting you with that incredible HE damage. The HE here, 5,000 alpha damage, and the fire chance is 31 only. I know, only, but that's lower than a lot of other battleships. But the key here is just how many shells you're firing so accurately and so often. You get generally some pretty decent fires. Bungo here showing off that he can definitely overmatch us still. But overall, I'm really happy to see Rhode Island come back for Black Friday. I was not expecting that at all, considering how expensive and short-term, how brief it was that this ship was actually for sale and how much they wanted for it. I was not expecting Rhode Island to be anywhere near the Black Friday discounts, let alone just regularly added to the armory. So I'm very happy to see it back. So anybody who's felt like they've missed out on this ship has a decent opportunity to get it. It's still expensive. Over 26k doubloons is not cheap. But if you've been grinding out your free doubloons recently, playing some events, right? We had that San Diego event where you could get San Diego for free. If you already had it, that was another 10,000 doubloons back in September. There's been a lot of opportunities to grind out some doubloons just by playing the game. And for some of you, that means a Rhode Island is on a legitimate option for you to actually obtain just by playing the game without inserting your credit card. Otherwise, 26k for a very strong tier 10, I think is reasonable. I think that's reasonable, although it's up to you what you want to do with your money, of course. And maybe I'm just so used to wargaming and how they were in the first half of 2025 with the Admiral bundles only, if they even did that, the Wishing Wharfs, things like that, that these last few months have felt like a massive breath of fresh air as far as the event quality and just not making everything so ridiculously expensive. To see some of these ships come back that were in some pretty egregious events and for decent normal prices, not Admiral bundles, regularly added to the game. Rhode Island coming back for Black Friday is super cool to see. And as we're about to get YOLO torped by this Stellarna, another great part about Rhode Island is the low speed maneuverability with this engine boost up. The turret traverse is pretty solid on these main guns. And while I don't recommend you run a full secondary build, having a little bit of value out of these secondaries here at close range into this DD. It also pairs with your radar reasonably well. The radar being a pretty decent 40 seconds, only 9 kilometers, so shorter range, but if you take even a few secondary upgrades, not even all of them, you can get your secondaries off on anything you're radaring too, which is pretty nice. Every little bit of chip damage matters into those destroyers, especially early game. It's a little risky to push up to islands like that one, as I did in this battle, so you got to be careful. I was kind of full sending it there, and wow, that was like 15k from that Monty. His back guns only. Even at range, you got to watch the armor on this thing. And now that we're back in port, I can show off the armor here and how unfortunate it is. 27 all in the bow, and then look at the superstructure, man. Yeah, 38 is quite nice, but at close range, it's pretty easy to just snipe the bow and superstructure. At longer ranges, they're gonna more often than not be hitting your superstructure instead of this deck armor, just because of how massive this. Look at how long it goes. The armor is certainly a problem. The survivability here is certainly a problem, but the gun power, especially if you're swapping over to HE, it was hard for me to do it, but when I did, suddenly this ship started working extremely well. The HE applies a ton of pressure to enemies as they're bow on, and then if they try to turn away, suddenly you just fast swap over to that armor piercing. Notice here I'm running the improved shell switch time here. Gun feeder, very good on this one. 8.8 seconds, and we're back to the AP. Is very, very powerful here. I don't recommend a full secondary build, okay, but I was running it just to see. I wanted to test. These are just Georgia secondaries. They're not like Ohio, so they're not as high DPM as Ohio, and they don't have that built-in buffed fire chance up to like 9%, something like that base. Here we only have the 5% base. But they still go out to that 11.3 kilometers, and they have the same accuracy. So they're reasonably consistent at hitting. You're just not surviving for very long at those closer ranges, so it's probably better to just buff the main guns or survivability. Notice I gave up fire prevention, bit risky that, but I didn't find myself dying to fires very often. Our concealment is so good, I can just choose to disengage whenever I want to, and if I get a fire or two on my ship and I need to disengage, well, we're actually running the improved damage control party mod 1. Thanks to the improvements to the game that Wargaming has been doing over the last couple months as well, not only events, but actual development on the game, I'm loving it. The change to module damage is massive for this ship. Having these smaller caliber guns, they're not as well armored. The AA gets blown off as well, but it all recharges back. You don't get permanently destroyed anything anymore. So it allows us to take that, and we have a 30.8 second action time. That's our immunity time, where we can't get lit on fire ever again. So if we shoot and we get lit on a bunch of fires, we still have time to damage control, and then immunity time lasts so long that our concealment resets, our bloom resets if we fired, anything like that, and it's very hard to get relit again, assuming we're 12.3 kilometers away, at least from the closest enemy. 3 radars, 3 engine boosts, very good. Of course, trying to buff our engine boost here. The radars are strong, but a 40-second radar is already more than enough for anything, generally, that's within 9 kilometers of you. That's quite close to a battleship, certainly. Either they're going to get out of your radar range in that 40 seconds, or you're going to take them out, which is my rationale as to why I'm going engine boost mod over the radar mod here. But you could go with either, honestly. As for the rest of the build, obviously go concealment. The 40-second cooldown on the heals makes it very easy to just use emergency repair expert. And considering our turret traverse is still pretty good already, I just love the 40% cooldown that this gives if there are planes in the area. Not that our AA is particularly good, though. Honestly, it's fine, but it's not going to be deterring carriers from focusing you. So again, another reason to play a little further back, try and dodge some of that incoming fire. But let me know what you think about Rhode Island and its B variant coming back. I assume a lot of you are pretty excited about this. I know I'm very happy that they've brought this one back. And for the Black Friday event, a 15% discount over if it was just normally introduced to the armory again. Notice there are a ton of B variant ships at this point. It almost doesn't fit on my screen. Maybe let me know what you want to see next. I got some ideas for certain Black Friday ships that I want to cover. Maybe we'll do an updated tier list as well, just to give you guys a quick idea of what I think of each ship too. Lots of content. Very excited for this new update. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.